What's up, guys? Welcome back to another NBA Rundown, the league that refuses to cash an under ticket. These points are going over every night, and my daily fantasy guys love it as they are racking up the points in daily fantasy. What's up, Travis? How you doing today?
Good. Excited to be here. Excited to talk some hoops with JSU. Don't talk too much with him on these shows because we're on some different times. But I love talking hoops with you, Spread. I like talking hoops with JSU, getting all your guys' insight. Some of the best in the biz. So excited to talk bets and excited to talk DFS as always.
Yeah, I think this is gonna be a fun combination this morning. JSU, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling good, man. Yeah, yesterday the slate was fun, really fun with a lot of those games and just absolutely popping off. Wish the Sacramento could have kept that game a little closer for my DFS lineups, but it was still a good night overall, and can't complain.
Yeah, I was kicking myself last night that I did not bet Brooklyn once I saw that Corey Joseph was starting because he's absolutely terrible. I can't believe he's still in the league, and it was such a downgrade from him to Halliburton. Um, that was one of the ones that I went to bed upset that I didn't bet it, and then woke up still upset about it. But we got a chance to get it back tonight, and we're going to start with your favorite team, Travis, as the Denver Nuggets head to Boston. They Boston Celtics open -3. They're now -2. The total opened at 221.5. It got bet down. I don't know who's betting these totals down right now because everything seems to be flying over this last week and a half. Denver 15-11, 12-14 against the spread. Boston 13-13, 13-13 against the spread. Denver is amazing, 18-7 to the over. Taking a look at this, a lot. So you got the big stars in here. It looks like Jokic, Murray, and Porter will play for Denver, but I see Harris, Barton, Dozier, and Paul Millsap all not going to play. And on the Boston side, we got Tyson Smart out. So let's start with you, Travis. How do you feel about your team tonight taking on a red-hot team in the Nuggets?
I opened up this and I was like, why are the Celtics -3 or whatever it was, like -2.5? Like I was completely shocked. I did not think that it would be that, right? Because the Celtics have not been good. Like they have been an absolute disaster. Right. I get it. The Nuggets are banged up too. Like they are. There's a battle of two teams that have been struggling, over the past 3 weeks of just injuries. I don't have a strong lean on like what side to go with because again, I don't think the Celtics should be favorites, but I wouldn't be shocked with the way Denver has been playing. They don't have a lot of guys. The defense has been a bit of a disaster. So I don't know what to do with the side or total. That's the one thing I would be thinking. I would lean the over because I don't think a lot of defense is going to be played, right? And I mean, Tristan Thompson is going to be covering Jokic all game. Like in DFS, I mean, this is a day where we're going to talk about as we kind of dive into all these games. Like, there are so many really good studs to pay for today. Like it's a really good stars and scrubs kind of slate, I believe. And Jokic might just get completely overlooked. And he's going to be shooting over Tristan Thompson all day long. Just like, as Big T says, he shoots over JSU. We know that's not the case though, JSU. I've seen the footage, but that's what Big T says. We'll make him happy and just let him hear that.
What do you think, JSU? I know Denver, getting a lot of love, but boy, without that bench, I know they still have their stars, but it just seems like they're going to be missing the depth. On the other side, I can understand why Kemba Walker's come back, not played well. It's weird that this Boston team is missing, some wing depth, almost like they could use a guy like, I don't know, Gordon Hayward maybe to help them out. But what do you think of this team, Boston, at home against Denver?
Yeah, what about Gordon Hayward? I mean, he's been looking really good to start the season, so that's got to be a little depressing for some of the Boston fans watching him hoop it up in Charlotte. But for the Boston side, man, I kind of agree with Mangone from the standpoint that I don't think that the defense in this game is going to be great. I think that both teams are going to be able to score. So I do like the over lean, but I don't trust Boston the way they're playing. And the one thing about Denver, I know you read off like 4 or 5, and you forgot like Monte Morris is questionable with a shoulder injury. So there's another guard who's questionable, but they're the dogs in this match, and they still have their main guys like Jokic, Murray, Porter Jr. They can't sit Porter Jr., which is actually, in my opinion, a good thing. Like they have to play him. Like they have no choice but to play him. So I think personally, if I have a lean in this game, I like the Nuggets. Give me the dog in this game. Give me the points. I like them to actually win the game as well. So I'll take the money line. but definitely like them here. I think that Jokic is going to be able to do whatever he wants, whenever he wants, against Tristan Thompson and Robert Williams and whoever else they throw at him, because Jokic is just, he's not the typical big. I mean, when you look at him, you're just like, oh, okay, like post up. Like, no, like this dude can stretch the floor. He can catch in the perimeter and make plays. He's a playmaker at his size. He's just so good. I think that Boston's going to really struggle defending him. And I agree from a DFS side, he just always seems to end up being the lowest owned stud. Whenever he's on a slate, for whatever reason, he ends up being 7-8% owned, maybe 3 sometimes. Like, I don't know if it's that low owned because they're just down so many guys, Mangone, but he's going to be lower owned than Giannis. He's going to be lower owned than I think Damian Lillard will be.
LeBron against
LeBron, yeah, with no AD. And then Harden, they're still without KD, right? So it's possible that Harden is higher owned than him. Kyrie's coming off a 40-point game, which I said on the show, by the way, last night. He is going to be somewhat popular, even against Phoenix. So this, to me, ends up being a slate where Jokic is going to come in overlooked, and I really like Jokic, and I really like the Denver side of this game. I don't know, Spread, can you talk me off Denver? Because right now I just have a strong lean, and it's towards the Denver side right now.
Yeah, I'm so curious, and this is where actually you guys come in because you know more about how these minutes will work. How is it going to work, on those bench minutes, when Jokic is resting? I'm assuming Porter Jr. will get some run there by himself. Jamal Murray, I don't necessarily trust that he's healthy yet, so I'll be interested to see if he can carry the team. And then who's going to get these extra minutes? I mean, like RJ Hampton, is he going to see some run tonight? I mean, what is he priced at? Do you guys put him in your lineup at all? I mean, he might get like 20 minutes, huh?
So he got 20 minutes last game. Campazzo ended up getting a little more run than him. He got 26 minutes. So I do think no matter what, both these guys are going to get run. Because I agree with you about Jamal Murray, but they're going to extend his minutes anyways because they just have no choice but to play him. Remember, they're missing guards. Like they're missing a lot of guards, and then one of them is also questionable. So if Monte Morris is ruled out for whatever reason, Murray's locked into 35-plus minutes. Campazzo and Hampton are locked into 22, 23-plus minutes, both of them, I think, because they just have nowhere else to go. And then I think what you'll end up seeing is JaMychal Green will get a bunch of run at the 4, but I think you'll see maybe some lineups where Porter Jr. might have to play a little 4. They're definitely going to go with a shorter rotation. This Zeke Naji, who got 24 minutes when Paul Millsap went down, I think he's going to end up seeing some run. So I think it all depends, though, on the game, right? I think it all depends on, like, does JaMychal Green get in foul trouble? MPJ, like, if one of those two guys gets in foul trouble, I think this Zeke Naji might end up seeing a little more run than he would. I'm sure if the game stays close, they're going to keep the minutes kind of tighter with the bench guys, unless it's more like one of those guards. Because if Monte's ruled out, they just have no choice but to end up playing a guy like RJ Hampton or Campazzo 30 minutes probably. They could both end up seeing 30 minutes. I don't know, because Monte got 30 last game, and they said he wasn't even that healthy. I think that's one of the reasons why they didn't extend his minutes even more, was they knew he wasn't really healthy. So definitely these guys will end up cracking the lineup. I mean, Mangone, with the value and stuff like that, these guys have to be some of the better value, especially if Monte is ruled out.
Yeah, so you're definitely right about that with the Campazzo situation. And I feel like Big T, like, he always says, I love jumping on these shows and talking out. Like, you guys got me excited more about the Denver side. Like, the one thing that JSU said, like, that kind of just, like, rung a bell right when he said it was, like, Denver still has their guys. I'm like, sure, the Celtics have their guys, but like Kemba is definitely like not completely right still. Jamal Murray is playing through an injury, but he's been playing a lot better. And I think it's one of those things where he's just kind of battled through it and just he's kind of getting healthier now, and that price is really cheap. So I like Murray. I think he is definitely intriguing, but Jokic is definitely my favorite. And JC, we were talking about, why will Jokic go under own? It's because the center position, the reason why it goes under own all the time is the center position is always a spot where they underprice so many players. And for some reason, they don't really underprice like the guys at the absolute ceiling, right? I guess at the start of the season, Jokic was, but he's at that point where he's not going to move from that like 10-8 spot or wherever he's at. And all the centers are priced down. And we have a slate where we have value with Tristan Thompson at 3.9, who is probably a stone lock, right? Maybe at least in cash games, I would assume. You just have to play him unless you get other value that you need to go to. But 3.9K for him. And then if you plug Jokic at your utility, you're out of center spots. There's no more. And we've only talked about one basketball game. So that's probably why you can go to all these other studs that were mentioned. And Thompson's just going to get so much run tonight. And I don't know what to do with Tatum and Brown. I was actually looking at some numbers. And JSU, I wanted to ask you, Jaylen Brown, he is in the past, I'd say, like, I think it's like 5 or 10 games. He's in like the top 10 in usage rate in the league. Like, sure, that's because some guys have been out, but Jaylen Brown at his price I think is really intriguing at 7.8.
Yeah, and wings against Denver is a real thing, right? So like Jaylen Brown, Kemba Walker, definitely I'm gonna like some of these guards or wings on the outside versus Denver because like we said, I don't think that they're going to be able to stop Boston on the opposite end on the defensive end. I think they're going to struggle. So yeah, I do think Jaylen Brown makes a lot of sense here. My other thing though about Tristan Thompson, I am not convinced that Boston is even willing to run this guy out 30 minutes. I'm not convinced. I think that the more likely scenario is him and Robert Williams split the Jokic minutes. So if Jokic plays 40, I think those two together combine for 40. Now, maybe you can say Tristan Thompson plays 24 and Robert Williams plays 16 or 18 minutes. I think that's more of an likely scenario than Tristan Thompson gets 30 minutes or more even in a close game. I think Robert Williams sees some decent run against Jokic as well. Remember, Robert Williams, super athletic. He does tend to overcommit at times and gets into foul trouble. And Jokic can definitely get him with the little up fake. And, he could definitely get him in trouble a little bit. But I think Boston is not just going to put Tristan on Jokic the entire time. I think they're going to switch it up a little bit. So I'm not convinced that Tristan Thompson chalk is the best chalk. And then on top of it, I hate centers against Jokic. The Denver is one of the best teams against centers in all of basketball. I think they're number 1 ranked. And I just don't think Tristan Thompson is very good anymore.
Yeah, no, he's definitely had problems. Interesting thing with Robert Williams, maybe Mangone can jump in too. For some reason, when I watch Mangone, Robert Williams seems to have a really short leash with Brad Stevens. And I don't understand why when he makes mistakes, he gets yanked, but these other guys are allowed to play through him. And so that's one thing that intrigues me about Robert Williams. He seems like he has so much talent. Why aren't they letting him play through some of these mistakes? Do you have any idea about that?
No idea. This Celtics team, not that it sucks, but it's not it, right? Like whenever Jason Tatum does compete for a title, it's not this group, right? It's not. So I can't wait for let's fast forward 2 years from this team. Get Kemba out of there. Even Smart. Smart is great, but send him off to get something, right? He's got a decent contract. You know who he can help? He can help the Denver Nuggets win a title. That's where you should be sending Marcus Smart.
That's a great point.
Time out. Wait, hold on. Marcus Smart is perfect on any close to contender team because the guy is he does all the little things. That's the guy. In my opinion, any contender would want on their team. We're not. You're right about Kemba. Get Kemba out of there. Ship Kemba out. Maybe get an actual big for once if the Celtics want to. Let's get a center an actual center, real center.
So, Jason, it's a long-term thing, right? I know, we're not going to, in 2 years, he's probably going to ask for too much money. I just rather get an asset for him and move. I'm trying to jumpstart the rebuild, before the real rebuild happens, right? I want to get a stud in there. I want it to be Jaylen Brown, Tatum, and give me, I know it's not Kawhi, right? But give me another star with him. Just give me someone. It'd be
That's
awesome.
fair. I personally don't think, I think the intangibles that Marcus Smart has, it's almost something that, you can't replace. Like it's really hard to replace. This guy will defend anybody. You can switch him onto anyone. He's diving for loose balls. He's gritty.
He's a valuable asset.
You just can't make that up. Like that is huge for any team. I think any team would love to have a Marcus Smart on their team. I know I would. If I was a coach, I would love to have one guy like him all the time.
I love him for what it's worth. I'm not hating on him. I just think he's an asset that we can get something for and restart this whole thing.
My real question. So I want to answer the Robert Williams. I think the problem with the Celtics bigs in general is that they have 3 of them, and I think Brad Stevens thinks they're all pretty close, and he wants to give all these guys minutes. So it's easy to just hook the young guy when he makes a mistake because you have 2 other bigs to throw in there for him. So it's like, okay, Robert made a mistake. Now with 1 out of the game, they might not be able to do it as easily. He might have a little bit of a longer leash, especially if it's what I think, which is I don't think they want to give Tristan monster minutes, like 30-plus minutes. I just really don't believe they want to do it at all. And I don't think he's that much better than Robert Williams. I think if Robert Williams goes out there and gets some decent run, he could get his minutes extended. Now, yeah, he could get hooked too, but that's the chance you take.
Honestly, it might not be a bad bet here, real quick, spread. You could bet the first quarter on the Nuggets, because I wouldn't be surprised if what the Celtics did was they decided to take Tatum out earlier. I'd have to look at rotations, right? But when I make first quarter bets, I like to really look and see what are teams' trends and when do they take guys out. I forget when they take Tatum out, but I would go back and look at the last 5 games or 3 games or so, and then I would see, because I think they're going to take a guy like Tatum out early. Or Jaylen Brown, and then that way they can run them in small ball lineups against the Nuggets later on. And if that's the case, you're taking one of those studs off the court and Jokic plays for a lot longer in the first, that would be great. But I forget what the rotation is on those guys.
Yeah,
Jason,
so I'm looking, usually Tatum is one of the first ones out, and he comes in to close the quarter.
Yeah, he finishes
and then they
out.
run Jaylen Brown till, about 3 to 4 minutes left in the quarter, and then they swap them out. And that's just but
that staggering could in a way help in the first quarter bet, because you know how Malone is. Malone grinds out his guys for that first quarter, so that could be a little advantage for us, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, one more note on the Celtics before we move on. I think that you guys do make good points. I actually do like Smart. I think that he does help a championship team. I don't know if I move him. I think they made some decisions that were smart decisions that just didn't work out. I think that Tristan Thompson, I like the signing when I got it. He just doesn't seem to be the same guy anymore. And same with Kemba Walker. I thought that was really going to push them over the edge. If he was anything close to the player he was at Charlotte, I think that they would have been there. I think he's such a better passer, better teammate than Kyrie. And it just seems so smart the way that they added him. But he's got that degenerative knee condition. I just don't know if we're ever going to get that guy that we saw at Charlotte again. Now you're on the hook for the Tristan Thompson contract you can get off of easy, but that Kemba one is really eating a lot there. So my favorite play in this game tonight is the over here. I've just been watching games go over every night. It's just why would I not continue to take overs until they start just pumping these numbers up? I mean, even in Brooklyn, they're putting them in the 240s and they're sailing over with ease. So I think it's really hard for these bookmakers, especially if they're older like I am and they're just so used to these certain numbers, to get up to these higher numbers. So that's what I probably look to take advantage there. But this game should definitely be a lot of fun. I'll probably be messaging you, Mangone, and talking to you about how Boston looks tonight, because I think this is kind of important measuring stick for how they are and to get this season turned around. Now, talk about a measuring stick game. The next one we have is New Orleans heading to Memphis. New Orleans, I kind of ran them down about a week ago, and they went on a little hot streak, and then now they've kind of reverted to everything I've said. They haven't been able to defend. They've lost their last 3 games. Now, to be fair, they were all on the road, but this game's on the road as well, and they're going against a Memphis team that is kind of putting things together here since they're not fully healthy because they don't have Jaren Jackson back. But I think they got Brandon Clark back in the lineup. He played last game, and John Morant's back as well. So the 2 players they're missing is DeAnthony Melton and Desmond Bane. So a little bit of depth issues on the wing here. I don't see any injuries for the Pelicans, which makes it surprising to me. A lot of these teams are struggling because of the lack of depth. Pelicans are 100% healthy, and they're just playing they're just playing terrible. So I kind of lean Memphis here in this game. This total got bet up. Makes sense. Every total should be bet up to me. New Orleans 17-8 to the over. Memphis 11-10 to the over. So we'll start with you, Travis. What do you think about the Pelicans and the Grizzlies, and what do you think about if I want to place a Grizzlies bet for tonight?
Yeah, so you and I, we argued last week, right, about the Pelicans, and I ended up winning on that one. But I'm not going to argue here against you. I like the Grizzlies, I think, in this spot. Pelicans are a team that, if you look, their defensive numbers have not been good lately. They have been a bit of a disaster over the last 5 games. They are struggling a ton defensively. I don't love this fit of this entire team. And like this Memphis team, like they're very good at shooting the 3-ball, right? Like they have guys that can get hot from downtown. This is a really, really nice spot, I think, for Memphis to get right and like really get going, right? Because they're a team that's been banged up throughout the year, but they have enough depth. Sure, they don't have, I think Bane is out, right? Bane's a really good 3-point shooter, young guy, but I still think that they have enough guys between like Grayson Allen, Anderson, and Dillon Brooks. They'll be able to light it up enough from downtown and get the job done. So I like the Grizzlies a bit here. I know JSU wants to talk about Ja Moran. I'm sure he loves talking about his boy Ja. I think he's going to be a really good DFS play that just gets underlooked because we have all the stars are out tonight, right? In really good spots. And like I said, Pelicans have been really bad defensively. They give up a ton of threes. They're not good against the 3-ball. So JSU, talk about Ja Moran for me.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Yeah, so honestly, Ja has looked different since the injury. Like, in my opinion, not as aggressive. To start the season, I thought Ja Morant was going to be one of the most improved players in the NBA. And honestly, he looked that way for the couple games before the injury, the really bad like ankle injury he had that kept him out for a bunch of games. And now he's came back. He looks good. I don't want to say he's not like he doesn't look bad. He just doesn't look the same to me. And his aggressiveness is definitely taken a downswing, in my opinion. And maybe that's due to a bunch of things. I mean, maybe that's due to Kyle Anderson, who, last game he got hot from the corner 3 and hit a bunch of threes. Dillon Brooks was on fire to start the game. Really hot. Took 20 shots to Dillon Brooks because he started out so well in the first quarter. But yeah, I think I would lean Memphis in this game. I think Memphis is a better team, but I'm not as confident. And honestly, if I had to lean an over-under, I think I'd take the under here.
Oh, wow. That's in this NBA, that's brave. I mean, as I'm just watching them fall.
I'm not saying that's my favorite bet. I'm saying that if I had to lean, I would lean the under here. But this isn't a game I love for betting or DFS, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I was going to say, so are you guys targeting? I know we talked about stars and scrubs earlier. Are there any low price guys that we're targeting in this game?
It's Grayson Allen's kind of in play because he's fit that role, but he's one of those guys that like price has probably gone up. I don't know exactly what it is now, but it feels like you're going to go to these values that are newer values and he'll just be priced out a little bit. Dillon Brooks on FanDuel might be interesting. I think JSU, right? He's like that 5.5 range that he always sits at. Kyle Anderson maybe too, but it's not a sexy game for DFS, but listen, you hit on a money line bet on the Knicks the other day. I like the Grizzlies spread. It sounds like you like the Grizzlies. I don't know if you want to talk about it more of why. And JSU, did you like the Grizzlies? You said you leaned the under, but did you like the Grizzlies more?
Yeah, I do like the Grizzlies more. I think they're the better team. I think that they end up winning this game. So I would lean taking them if I had to, because this game's like what almost a pick'em or something like that right now. Yeah. I'm looking at it on DK. It's pretty much a pick'em game there. So I would pick Memphis, definitely. I'm not a fan of the Pelicans. I'm not a fan of the way that they're coaching and the way their style is right now. I just think it's wrong for the players they have. And I would definitely lean Memphis. But from a DFS side, like Grayson Allen's 4.9K on FanDuel, 4.7 on DraftKings. Dillon Brooks is 5.3. Like, I'll take Dillon Brooks over Grayson Allen all day, every day for 400 more. Just give me Dillon Brooks. Even on DraftKings, like I think it's more of like a $800 difference maybe from Brooks to Allen. Still, give me Dillon Brooks like Dillon Brooks. The problem with Dillon Brooks is, man, he gets into foul trouble more than like any guard in the NBA. I feel like it's just like he is just so bad at committing stupid fouls at times. I think that was one of the reasons why his minutes weren't higher in the last game, because he got into foul trouble. If he didn't get into foul trouble, I think his minutes would have been a little higher than what they were. I think he saw right around 30 minutes. But with all the, with Melton out, I think he would have seen a few more minutes if he wasn't in foul trouble.
It's just such a good spot for him. I'm definitely excited about him in DFS. It might not be the right slate, though, right? Like when I first opened up the slate, I thought he'd be intriguing, but it might not end up being the right slate. Maybe he's a good tournament play because he can get hot from downtown, right? It's that perfect matchup.
Yeah, it's funny that you say Memphis is the better team, and I agree that they are the better team. I think New Orleans is a much better collection of talent, though, and I don't know if it's roster construction from the GM side or just Stan Van Gundy. I've been down on him all season, kind of saying that he's outdated and trying to implement these styles that worked 11 years ago when he was leading Dwight Howard to the NBA Finals. The NBA is completely different. It's been almost like 50 years of basketball evolution in the past 10 years. So credit to Taylor Jenkins, who's a guy that I honestly didn't know a lot about going into the season, and now he's a guy that I really give a lot of praise to. I think he's done a great job with his team, and I think that if you just took the roster and you were selling them off, I think you could get so much more for all the pieces on this Pelicans roster, and I just don't know if they just don't fit well together or it's Stan not using them well together. But something's got to give with this New Orleans team because for the amount of players they have, like I said, you can have a fire sale with this team and get solid things back. You can't do that with Memphis. People aren't going to trade you a lot for Dillon Brooks or, Kyle Anderson or Grayson Allen, right? I mean, these are getting you second-round picks. You can get rid of Lonzo. Ingram is a stud, bona fide all-star once they get him going. Obviously, we know about Zion. Even Steven Adams seems to play a better role. So I do like Memphis here, and it's so tough for this Pelicans team. I wonder if they're ever going to turn it around this year or what they do to get right. So
I think that shows you, though, that talent isn't always everything, even in the NBA. You got to be able to implement it and use it correctly. And clearly, the coaches for New Orleans haven't been able to do it because, like you said, if you just were selling off the team, like saying, okay, what are you going to pay for these two teams? I mean, New Orleans has way better pieces from a talent standpoint, but I think that the coaching staff for Memphis is just better, and they're better at using what they have. Even if the players aren't as talented, they just know how to use them and get them in the right spots to have some success. And ultimate credit would probably go to the coaching staff, right? Over a guy like Ja, who, even though I think he's by far the best player, I still think it's the coaching staff who really gets the best out of all the scrubs or secondary guys that they have, because they're not really good players. You wouldn't be able to get a ton for them in trades.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree with that. So
I would take Dillon Brooks and Kyle Anderson. Those are great guys that in the long run, when you have a title team, they're guys that you're man, they go a long way. You know what I mean? So it's about constructing a basketball team, and the Pelicans are an absolute mess. There's too many different guys that don't fit the correct roles.
All right. Well, it seems like the whole panel likes Memphis in that one. The next game this game I'm torn on because my model has buy on both these teams, even though Milwaukee's coming on a 3-game losing streak that they head home now. They're hosting Toronto, open at 6.5. Toronto took some money. 6.5 is a pretty big number for two good teams. Now it's sitting at Milwaukee minus 5.5. Open to 233, got bet up to 235.5. Doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, everyone who cashed an over ticket last night is probably going right back to the well. Toronto 16-11 to the over. Milwaukee 17-10 to the over. So how high can they set this line? And let's see, we got Toronto also coming off 2 losses as well. So two teams looking to turn it around tonight. I'm really torn on this game. Even though they're coming off losing streaks, I think that both these teams are headed in the right direction, and I really don't know what to make of this game. Mangone, help me out here. Which side are you leaning to looking at this 5.5-point spread?
Yeah, man, it's tough. I know Toronto's been playing better basketball, but I also have trouble betting on the Bucks because I tweeted this out the other day. I was when do people start getting worried about the Bucks? Now, I'm not someone in the regular season, not that it doesn't matter, right? But you can sometimes just be hey, teams can write off the regular season. You don't want to overreact, but it has been a little bit ugly for the Bucks, and they're obviously not playing without Drew Holiday here, so it is a different team. Bryn Forbes in there is going to change things. And you definitely expect that, like the Raptors, like they're a team that I think they are going to give some fits to this team. I think they're going to be okay with letting Giannis get his empty buckets in the paint, right? Like they're going to be okay with him dunking the ball in there, but they're going to really, I think, cover up Chris Middleton and really give him more fits. And I'm torn at what to do with him here in DFS in this spot. JSU, do you have any takes on that? I don't have any leans on like side or total. Like I have no idea, and I'll just stay away from this one. We're okay to do that in betting. Everyone wants to bet every game on the card. You don't have to. This is one I'm not going to bet, but I want to get JSU's takes on this. I love Giannis in this spot, and I don't like Middleton as much.
Get us off the fence, JSU.
So
me and Travis
I like
to take a stand.
So I'll take a stand for you guys. Yeah. I like the Toronto side here. I'll take the dog. Give me the points. What is it, 6, 5.5, whatever it is right now. If you can get it at 6, obviously, but 5.5. I'm seeing right now on DK Sportsbook. If I had to lean this game, I think this game probably goes over the total. So I guess I would lean the over as well. But I definitely like Toronto here. Talk about a team where I think their style kind of fits what you need to beat the Bucks, which is you need to be able to have shooters spread out around and pretty much force driving into the middle and then kicking out to shooters. And they can spread you out really well. Norman Powell has been shooting a lot better from deep this year. Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet. Siakam's been the only one that's been kind of disappointing, but Boucher's looked really good. Even Aaron Baines will stretch it out when he's in there. So if Siakam can drive and kick, Kyle Lowry can drive and kick out, I think that's going to give problems to Milwaukee, who defends the rim really well, but they give up those threes. Just the way they defend, they're going to give up those open threes. So I like Toronto here. I like Fred VanVleet and Kyle Lowry a lot. I think they're going to take a bunch of 3-point shots. Give me the overs on their 3-point makes tonight, because 2.5. I think it's 2.5 for Kyle Lowry, 3.5 for Fred VanVleet. I think they shoot 8 to 10 3-pointers. Like honestly, like I think it's a game that sets up where they are launching from deep, because Pascal Siakam has just refused to do it at times. So these guys are going to end up, Norman Powell, they're going to end up with these open looks. And we've seen Fred VanVleet take double-digit 3-point attempts in other games. So I think it happens here. And I think if he makes them, he's going to have a monster game. Him or Kyle Lowry, one of these two. It could be both. They could both end up having a monster game. Throw in Norman Powell too, because all these guys are going to get looks from the 3. I think it also sets up where Chris Boucher should see more minutes. I don't know why he doesn't get consistent minutes. I have no idea. I know for a fact they just have to like him coming off the bench, but I have no idea why he doesn't stay on the floor for longer. That dude deserves 25 minutes plus every single night. I don't know, but this matchup makes a lot of sense for him to be out there, because like I said, if Siakam's going to keep struggling from the 3, they need a big who can stretch the floor, and Boucher can do it.
Travis, we talked about stars and scrubs earlier. Who are some lower price guys that you might be looking at for this game? Because it seems like this is a game I would be targeting in DFS. I expect a lot of points in this game tonight.
Yeah, definitely a lot of points should be scored. The problem with Toronto is like you're not getting many value guys on this team, because they're all priced up, because the guys that actually play, like they play a ton of minutes, right? And they're all priced pretty good. You can make a case for Norman Powell at 6'8", has been phenomenal. You can make a case for like an interesting mid-tier tournament team like them, the Lowrys, the VanVleets, but they're just not going to fit the construction that I likely go down. And like, I don't know. I just don't think I'm going to end up going that route. Obviously I like Giannis. I think he's a strong play. Bobby Portis has been pretty good, but the price is getting up there at 5-1. I still think he's in play and still can get it done. So don't mind him. I believe Chris Middleton is 7-5 on FanDuel, where you have to play 2 small forwards, right? Like every night on FanDuel, there are 2 small forwards on the winner, right? You can't change that. So that's the thing. You have to consider him over there. I think he's definitely a better play on that site than he is over on DraftKings. And a cheap guy that you can consider, I'm not saying he's a must, but Bryn Forbes' minutes have been good. It's a spot where the guards, right, it's not the easiest spot, but I could see them keying more in on a guy like Middleton throughout the game, where maybe they're okay just giving up some shots to Forbes, right? But I don't really want to mess with too many guys DFS-wise in this game. It's really Giannis and Middleton. I'll look at those two guys, and I think that's about it. And you talked about Jason talked about the interior of the Raptors. One reason why, and Boucher's not getting the minutes is because Aaron Baines, he has been a guy that, defensively, he has been more helpful for them. At the start of the year, they struggled. They're just playing better basketball with what they're doing, so it makes sense. And I bet a little bit on the Aaron Baines over on the rebounds at 5.5. And they're going to need his size, right? The minutes he's going to need to see against Giannis, they're going to have him in that game. So I think that's not a bad bet, especially with the pace they're going to play out, more opportunities for rebounds. So 5.5 rebounds for Aaron Baines, you get plus money as well. So that's always nice.
I like that prop. I'm going to join you. JSU, do you got any looks here for maybe some lower price guys you might be targeting?
Yeah, lower price guys. Like Mangone said, this isn't a game where I think you're going to find many values or many values that you're really going to like anyways. And this is a perfect thing for tournaments, though, because it's the opposite build of what everyone's going to want to do today. Every single person is going to kind of be away from a lot of these mid-tier plays. They might have one, maybe two, but if you play a few of these mid-tier guys, like from the Raptor side, if you play like Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet and Chris Middleton on DraftKings, not on FanDuel, you're probably going to have a little different roster construction than what a lot of people will have, because a lot of people are going to want one or two of these studs at the top. And I'm not saying the studs are bad, because the studs are good plays, but I think it's just going to bring you into a different construction. And I already talked about it, but I really like the guards for Toronto. I think this is a game where the guards can have great success. I don't mind pairing these two together, because we already know the Raptors, as long as these guys aren't in foul trouble, they're going to run these guys out 35-plus minutes, both of them. So give me the guys with upside minutes, and the price tags are slowly coming down on these guys, which is when you want to jump back in on them for sure. You know what I mean? Not when Fred VanVleet's 9.3K on FanDuel and it's like, oh God, now he's 7.5. Like, now is the time to jump back in. Kyle Lowry's, 7.6 on FanDuel, 7.4 on DK. Like, this is the time to pounce. These guys are 8K plus players that you're getting at values on some of these sites. So give me a different roster construction and upside for both these guys. I'll take it.
Fantastic. Well, I can't wait to hear you guys' thoughts on this next game, because I'm not really sure how to approach this team, and that's the Los Angeles Lakers playing without Anthony Davis, and they're heading to Minnesota, who's a team that I haven't put the buy signal on them yet, but I'm getting ready. I think they're kind of coming into their own. We see how much talent's really meant to that team, and I think that Anthony Edwards is starting to adjust to the pace of the NBA, and he's going to be streaky, but I think that when he's hot, he can really help this team a lot. Not saying I necessarily want to get involved, because I think I want to tread lightly on these Lakers games while I see how well they do without Davis and pretty much their approach to LeBron minutes. I mean, I think it would be kind of a mistake with an older player like LeBron to have him just try and carry the load here in this kind of meaningless regular season point when we don't even know if there's going to be fans in the stands for the playoffs. So, I mean, how much is home court really going to matter? So I don't know how to approach this game, but I think it's fascinating, and I'll definitely have it on my TV screen. Travis, start with you. What do you think about the Lakers laying 6.5 in Minnesota, and what do you think about, how the Lakers are going to attack these next 2 or 3 weeks without Anthony Davis?
Yeah, I don't know if it's confirmed that he's going to be out till then, but I'm basically assuming until that All-Star break, he's for sure out. I don't see him coming back. And I think they're just going to cruise a little bit. LeBron is, everyone talks about, well, why is LeBron playing every game? Well, his minutes are down, right? He's not playing 38 minutes a night. I mean, sure, there's when the game goes to double OT against the Pistons, yeah, you're not pulling LeBron. LeBron is not going to sit for the 3 minutes of overtime, you know what I mean, or 5 minutes. He's just not going to. So his minutes have been more down this year than past years, so they're doing a decent job. And I wouldn't be surprised if they start sitting in more and more as they get closer, right? LeBron isn't this guy that you're going to sit all year long. You're not just going to sit him for 2-3 weeks. They'll find their spots to sit him eventually, and he's going to play. He's going to do his thing. He'll probably yield to some of these guys. They have Harrell. They have Dennis Schroeder. And I do think that those guys are really, solid basketball players that can help beat the Timberwolves very easily here in this spot. But the Timberwolves have been playing a lot better basketball. They've been an absolute disaster. They're really hard to roster in DFS, and this is not a spot where I'm going to look at these guys in DFS. I'm out. No chance I'm playing Timberwolves. But from a betting side, this is intriguing to consider these guys because Cat being back obviously helps. Edwards has looked really great, as you've said. D'Angelo Russell, man, you could make the case, and I was high on D'Angelo Russell. I thought he could be a team that could help a team. He's just so bad defensively, and like I feel like part of him just holding that basketball for too long is like hurting teams. It's just I don't think I like D'Angelo Russell with this team. Like I think it'd be nice if they got rid of him and tried to figure something else out. But yeah, I think ultimately this is a spot where in DFS I'm going to look at LeBron James. I might look at some of these guys like a Kuzma because again the price hasn't probably gone up too much yet on him because he's going to be the guy that probably starts in that spot. You can make a case for a Markieff Morris in the Stars and Scrubs build, and then on the betting side, I'm going to be okay just to sit this one out. I think. And, like maybe JSU can talk me into something as we go through it here, but I don't think I need to touch this game. But if you force me to pick, I would lean the Timberwolves, as scary as it sounds.
JSU, what do you think? How do the Lakers look without AD for the next 2 or 3 weeks?
Yeah, so first off, I am shocked that he came back so soon off of the right Achilles tendonitis. That's a pretty serious injury when you're talking about the Achilles and I can't believe that they ran him out, and then he obviously re-aggravates the injury, and we can't foresee injuries or anything like that. I'm just shocked that maybe he was pushing to play, but I'm shocked they let him go out there so soon. He didn't need to come back this early off that injury, and then he obviously re-aggravates it. So I'm just surprised they let him go back out there and then ends up hurting himself again. Tough to see. This time, though, guaranteed they're not going to rush him back. So I would be shocked. He's going to be 100% healthy before he comes back to see the floor. And without him, they definitely take a hit, like defensively, obviously. And with Cat being back, that's good for Minnesota. But I think from all standpoints, I don't really love this game. Mangone talked about last game, like we don't have to bet every game. I just don't like this game. I don't like it from a DFS side. Kyle Kuzma is 7K. I just did a double take when I saw that on.
He's 7K?
No, he's not. Yes, he is.
Oh, that's absurd.
Okay, so on DraftKings, I would have if these players are not values. Like Montrezl Harrell has had a bunch of bad games and he's 6.2K. I mean, I would don't get me wrong. I think that Montrezl Harrell in 25 minutes could crush the Timberwolves. Like he absolutely could. But man, give me 5.5K Montrezl Harrell, 5.3K like he was like a week ago. I'm on it, Travis. Like I would be on 5.3K Montrezl Harrell, but 6.2 is even a little much for me for a guy who's extremely up and down. Even though it is a good matchup. And these two teams are tailored differences. Like one team in Minnesota is one of the worst defenses in the league. The Lakers are one of the best defenses in the league. One team plays at a fast pace in Minnesota. One team plays at a slow pace in LA. This is just a bad matchup all around for these two teams. Obviously, in the end, I would lean I think the Lakers end up winning, obviously. But LeBron James does not get up to play Minnesota in February. I'm just sorry. He doesn't. We watched it in OKC twice. OKC kept the game close against the Lakers. And LeBron James, like in the second half, he's like, okay, I'll play a little harder. And in the second half, he does well. But in the first half, it's like, where was he? Like, what was he doing in the first half? He didn't care. Like he didn't. And then he's like, okay, we'll come back now. We'll win, after being down like all game. So I wouldn't be shocked if this is one of those games where Minnesota somehow stays in it. And then at the end of the third or the beginning of the fourth quarter, LeBron just says switch flipped and decides to win the game. And that's what I think happens here, honestly. And that's that.
Spread, what do you think of this from betting? We have a chatter in the chat, Nutflush Allen. He said, fade the Lakers early and be ready to pull the live button on the Lakers and smash the number when it drops. I've been getting Lakers at great numbers. I honestly say you bet the Timberwolves. What is the points on that right now, Spread?
Let's see. At Bookmaker, hold on, I was back because I put in that Aaron Baines bet, so I was off the screen. 6.5 points at minus 108.
So I wouldn't hate grabbing it could go up to 7, right? We're grabbing at 6.5 and then live bet the Lakers when it gets to they're down and get a better number and then middle it, right? So you're sitting pretty. You can hit both. I think that makes a ton of sense. I think it's a great way to go. And I mean, one reason, like, everyone's always like, oh, man, why the Lakers suck? Like, why are they looking bad? It's like, dude, like, LeBron is trying to, like, just – he's like a parent, right? He's trying to teach his kids how to play basketball and get right. I'm not a parent. Maybe this is a bad analogy. But, Spread, you're watching your kids out there, and you're wanting to have some growing pains, but you're going to watch from the sidelines, too. You're going to make sure they don't make a stupid mistake and ruin their life. But you're going to make sure that they at least learn from their decisions out there, right? You're going to make sure that these guys grow and get better, because when it matters in the playoffs, LeBron needs them there. He needs to have good players next to him.
Yeah, I agree with everything you say. Yeah, Netflix has got a good idea. You know, it's funny. It was the exact opposite kind of last year. Last year, they used to go out to these big leads and then take their foot off the gas. This year, they're starting a little more slow. So that's an interesting look, but I don't hate that look at all. And then I also don't hate the look of just watching this game and just seeing what's going on. But, you know, you guys mentioned the OKC game, and I think that could actually be a template for this game where they just kind of screw around and let Minnesota stay close and then, you know, just put on the Jets at the end, because we both know that when it comes down to it, when Minnesota needs stops, I don't think they're going to get them. You know, they've shown that this year. There's not a player that I really like defensively on that team at all, you know, and so that's just a tough team. You know, we talked about bad roster construction, and I think Minnesota's kind of got some of that going on as well. So, yeah, I'm completely fine staying off this game altogether. This next game, I think, is a lot of fun. We just talked about Oklahoma City, and now Portland's heading to Oklahoma City. Portland's won 7 of their last 9. You know, I kind of written them off once C.J. McCollum went down, and they've just been playing fantastic. I think Gary Trent Jr. has definitely you know, coming to his own, becoming a legitimate player in the league, and someone that needs to be accounted for on the defensive end. Cantor is a player that we always write off, yet always seems to be effective. I think it's because no one ever boxes out, so he's able to get a lot of offensive rebounds and putbacks in that regard. And Oklahoma City has been one of the best teams against the spread this year, 16-10 against the spread, while they're only 11-15. So they're obviously keeping a lot of games close. This is, you know, we got huge injuries here. Rodney Hood's out, and the usual suspects for the Portland Trailblazers. And then you look at the Oklahoma City side, they don't really even have a point guard. I'm seeing they might not have SGA again, no Maladon, no George Hill. We talked last time, JSU, this guy Kenrick Williams was running the point, and then in the last game, they let Justin Jackson essentially run the point, and he did quite well. So, you know, it seems like we lean Portland here, but every time, you know, you want to fade OKC, they keep it close and they cover. What do you think, JSU? Is OKC worth a look here tonight?
Can we first just acknowledge the fact that OKC, the coaching job being done by OKC might be one of the better coaching jobs we will see all year right now. And they look better with this shortened rotation because they're forced, obviously, into a short rotation of players. But they look better than they have all year with all of their players healthy. And I'm talking about no SGA right now. Like, SGA is not available. He's not playing again tonight. And yes, he has been available with their shortened team before, and they've won or been close to winning against good teams as well. I know that. But I'm just saying, the fact of what this coach is doing right now, I feel like it's getting overlooked, and it's incredible. Like, to me, it's incredible. This team should be blown out by 20 against almost every single team they face. And they've been in pretty much every single game. So it's just a testament to the coaching job. It just shows you that coaching is a huge deal when it comes to really all sports. But, I mean, NBA, I mean, just looking at this, it's big. It's really big. And the players have responded really well. So I think this is a game where Portland plays no defense. You want to talk about how good they've played, but they play no defense still. They're one of the worst defenses in the league. And OKC has hung in there with way better teams than Portland. So do I think OKC can stop Portland on the offensive end? Probably not. But I think that this game stays close. I think that Al Horford against Enes Kanter, that's a plus matchup for Al Horford, the way he's been playing. And yeah, Enes Kanter can get it done on the offensive boards as well. I know that. But I think that this game is going to stay close. And I kind of lean the OKC side if I had to take a side here, just with how good these guys have been playing. So, and then also too, like, they're going to try and force the ball out of Lillard's hands as much as they can. I think Lou Dort and they're going to really pressure him to get the ball out of his hands. And a guy like Gary Trent makes a lot of sense for like a DFS play because I think he's going to get a lot of open looks. Him, Carmelo Anthony is going to get a lot of open looks on the block, and his Canner down low. Like a lot of these secondary guys where I know Damian Lillard's going to be popular for DFS. Not that I don't like him, but if I had to spend for someone, I think I lean, like right now anyways, I think I would lean Giannis or Jokic. And so it might end with me not having Lillard, but I think I might counter that by playing some of these secondary guys who I think OKC is going to really try and force for them to be the main offensive weapons. Guys like Trent and Melo and Covington's kind of cheap on DraftKings, 5.5K for the minutes he's getting, and his Cantor. So I think that's the way I'm kind of leaning from a DFS side is I'm going to take some of these secondary guys for my plays and then kind of lean OKC though from a betting side. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, and I can't argue with that. Travis, we talk about this OKC team. They're, not very much in the way of shot creations, but I really like the way that Dort defends, Baisley defends, and Diallo. So, you're getting some great wing defense, almost the exact opposite of the Timberwolves team we just talked about. What do you think of this game, and are you with JSU on taking the points?
Yeah, I like taking the points. Like I'm team always bet against Portland. Like I don't think they're good. Like again, even with CJ and Nurkic, they're fine, right? But I'm not a huge fan of them in general. I think Dame is phenomenal. I wish he wasn't with that group of guys. I don't know. The team just doesn't work that right. But they're so bad defensively. They can get beat up by anyone, right? They are just an absolute disaster. If shots are falling for guys that night, they're going to get destroyed. The whole Carmelo Anthony thing, it's fun and everything, but defensively, he's a disaster. Enes Kanter, that's not that great defensively. So right now, you can really take advantage of him. And I'm not going to bet against Oklahoma City right now. They've been playing phenomenal. And Al Horford, you can make the case him having the ball in his hands is a good thing for that team. Now he wasn't there before, right? Because they were playing SGA and then he was having his baby, right? So he wasn't playing for a little bit. And that's been a real big impact that I think people forget. At the start of the year, Al Horford was not playing really. He played for a couple games and then he was on a month hiatus. They gave him a nice little, paternity leave. So I think that Al Horford being there is big for that team. Sure, they don't have a point guard, but is this a team that you feel you need to have a point guard on? No, because the defense is just so bad. I also think Lou Dort is the perfect guy to have to try to contain Damian Lillard, right? That's the words, try to. I do want to make an argument for Damian Lillard against JSU, and I don't know if this is correct or not. Obviously, positions matter when I'm doing my spend-ups, right? I do think that I'm going to probably be spending up for a guy like Giannis when I think about it, because Giannis is probably in a position where I think getting those raw points is going to be important. Every day it's been Luka or Giannis, and I just lean Giannis because guards, there's more value. I think that's what's going to happen. But my argument for Dame in tournaments is if you think that this Oklahoma City team, if you like them to win, if you think that Oklahoma City is going to, or maybe not to win, but they're getting the points, and you think Oklahoma City is a good team, I like to play Damian Lillard when he's in a game that I know is going to be competitive. No doubt he's going to have to take over and go into takeover mode. Do you think this is a game that he can go into that, JSU? Because if that's the case, you're going to see 60 fantasy points from him tonight.
Yeah, is it possible that Damian Lillard drops a huge number on OKC? Yeah, it's definitely possible. But I think if you're coming in and you're OKC, it's our wing defense is by far our strength here. And I think what's going to happen is, they're going to force that ball, especially on those high pick and rolls. I think they're going to kind of either Dort is going to try and go over those screens, or they're going to try and hedge trap and then, force the ball out of his hands. And, then Damian Lillard's going to have to improvise to get the ball back. But I think they're going to do everything to stop him is the most important piece of this whole thing. And yeah, from a roster construction standpoint in DFS, I think what you're kind of saying is you might end up spending up for that guard position as well. I think in the way you're looking at your spends, the center position is going to be a cheap spend. You've already talked about it, but there's multiple cheap centers you like or bigs. And so it's just going to lead you to a roster construction where you might have money at the guard position to get Dame. Giannis at his raw points is huge. and if Dame puts up 60. But my counter to you is, well, I think there's some mid-tier guards that honestly can drop 45. Like I think there's multiple guys like Kyle Lowry, like Jamal Murray, even Kemba Walker against Denver. I know he hasn't looked great, but Kemba's cheap. Like Campazzo might be a really good value if we get Monte Morris. I mean, what are you going to do if Monte Morris is out and RJ Hampton or Campazzo ends up starting?
No, you're not wrong. That is going to change it up, and we're still waiting on that. That's for sure a big one. Right?
That's the news that we need, because like that might change everything, right? That might change the way you think of building this team. Now, maybe your counter back is, hey, I can play Campazzo and get Damian Lillard. Like I can play. That just helps me even more. And yeah, maybe that's the way you end up going. But I'm just saying, like, I think they're the mid-tier guards they might end up being overlooked, especially if we get those value plays at guards. So that's the other thing. Like, I don't want, like, if we get that value, I think that means that those mid-tier plays just go lower on, because that means that like a lot of people are going to take the value and they're going to go up for that other point guard spot. They're not going to play two of those mid-tier guys. And man, if you can hit on a Murray, Lowry, and they both go for 40 plus, like, that's going to be huge.
Yeah, you're making great points. Like, I do love the Murray call. That's one guy I'm definitely looking at in tournaments that I thought was like going to be a really interesting play that could go completely underlooked. And yeah, I like I said, I love Dame when I know like they're in the spot where it's like he has to take over. Because I remember we did one of the earlier betting shows, and I said to you, I was like, I like Damian Lillard's under here, right? He was on a hot streak, but I thought the match against Boston was great, and I thought Boston could blow him out too, where it could be a disaster. I remember it was halftime. I went to go get food. He had like 7 points, and I was like, oh, this is great. Go to grab the food. I come home, and he hit his over. He had like 20 points in the third. I was like, This is stupid. It's because he took over. They were down 20, and like I like him in those competitive games. So I guess that's where I'm a sucker for Dame Lillard.
Yeah, and I can't argue with anything you guys said there. So it should be a lot of fun in that game. And it sounds like we're saying if you're getting involved, don't lay it with Portland on the road. And, hey, I mean, I've known this for a long time. You don't want to lay points on the road that often in the NBA. You definitely want to pick your spots. And even without the crowds, I'd still rather have the home team plus the points. Now, this last game is probably, I'd say from a fan's perspective, if you're just sitting down, drinking a beer and just watching some basketball, the most fascinating game. And it's also had the most steam. Brooklyn coming off a shellacking of my team last night, the Sacramento Kings, in a game that wasn't nearly as close as the final score. And Brooklyn set, I think, a franchise record for three-pointers made in 27. So we'll see if Sacramento tired them out. Now they're heading to play a Phoenix team who has been playing very well lately. Let me see how many in a row they've won. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wins in a row, all at home, and they're continuing this homestand. So, they've got a nice little homestand, chance to get back on track. They've taken full advantage of it. Brooklyn getting 5.5 seems like a lot, but I'll tell you what, that was a fast game last night against the Kings. They got up and down the floor a lot. I really think that Brooklyn still struggles to defend against without Durant in the lineup. And now you're playing a team that can actually take advantage of it, unlike the Kings last night who didn't know what to do. And, there's a team that doesn't defend and they're still not able to take advantage of it. I think Corey Joseph in the starting lineup had a lot to do with that. They're going against one of the better teams in the West here. So 5.5 seems like a lot, but I don't know if I really like Brooklyn in this situation. What do you think, Travis?
Yeah, so I was a huge believer in like Phoenix to start the year. I was like, this team could be a 4 seed, right? Like they could have home court advantage, and I feel like people were saying I was crazy, but like I mean, it's been spot on, right? And the defense has been phenomenal by them, and it's the perfect storm for Brooklyn where it's probably not great, right? If there was a guy that you probably want in against this team, you would probably want Kevin Durant against Phoenix, a team like this. You would also probably not want it to be the second night of a back-to-back on the road as well. Like it's a lot of things are really just not adding up where I think it's going to hurt Brooklyn a bit, but they are so talented, right? Kyrie and Harden, they don't care. Harden can just, he can go to the strip club and then come back the next night and drop 50 points. It does not matter to him. So back to back, who cares? I lean going with Phoenix. It's tough though, man. I mean, Devin Booker has been playing really great. They funneled a little bit more usage towards him, and he's been playing great. So I would obviously want to ride that out a bit. That whole Frank Kaminsky and like Bridges off the bench, that has been a nice little combination that they've been running to kind of, instead of just stagger when they do kind of sit both those guys, or if they sit just like one of them, let's say it's like Booker on the court with Bridges, they kind of give him some more secondary ball handling, which has been really nice for that team. And they have the addition of Jay Crowder back, which you can make the case. Jay Crowder is a really nice piece for that team. Can hit that three ball in the corner, play some good defense. Phoenix overall is a tough team, and they're getting healthier, which again, this Nets team, they're great with Harden and they're great with Kyrie, but their bench is not the best. And you can see guys like Campaign with him being back. He's a nice guy off the bench that can help give you +5 in that bench time. And that can be enough to win a game, right? That little bit can get you there. So I like the Suns side. Maybe I'm crazy for saying that. I also don't hate the over, but I don't know. It's tough to bet the over, I feel like, when you see basically off of back-to-back, right? 2 jump shooters. I could also see the Nets getting beat bad where they just kind of like give up because it's like, whatever. It's as JSU said with LeBron, right? It's a game in February. Like, who cares? So that's my betting take on it. And then on the DFS side, it's like, I love Chris Paul here. I think he's great. I noticed that last 5 games, Devin Booker's getting a lot more usage funneled to him. I know the price feels strong, but I still think he can go there. And then DeAndre Ayton could get, I don't know if kicked off the court is the right word, but he could get ran off the court, right? And I think you could see these more small ball lineups working, and you could see guys like Bridges who are in like the mid-tier in this fast-paced environment. You could see him absolutely crush and get like 40 fantasy points. I would not be shocked by that at all. So I like those like wing players. Maybe not Cam Johnson because he's been struggling, but I think Crowder makes some sense, and Bridges is some okay mid-tier values.
Yeah, JSU, when I was looking at these games last night, getting ready for this morning, Phoenix is -2. Wake up, they're -5.5. I agree with this team. Obviously can't play it now, though, because you lose 3.5 points. You make those bets. You're never going to win long term. So that's kind of pushed me off the side. Did you want to make an argument for Brooklyn, or do you agree here that the Phoenix team is warranted?
Yeah, what stinks is like I don't really love take the spread with the Suns. I think the Suns are the better team. I said it right after the Chris Paul trade when that was. I forget what show I was on, but I thought this made the Suns like a really good basketball team, like really good, make the playoffs in the West, and be someone who's, maybe not a straight up like 1, 2, 3 contender, but someone who can really push one of those contenders in a series. And because Chris Paul he's underrated. Like, he's so good. People don't realize, I think, how good he actually is. And he's honestly ran bad with some of those playoff runs. Like, he just, he's ran bad with like an injuries or whatever, but he's really good. And I think he just elevates that team so much more. The problem with this game is you got 2, again, contrasting teams, like totally different. One plays at a slower pace, one plays at a, they want to push the ball, and they want to, like, their offense is their key to everything. They play no defense, though. I think the Suns end up winning this game with Brooklyn off the back-to-back. The shooting numbers for Brooklyn last night were insane. They broke like a team record for three-pointers. They were close to like the NBA record for most made three-pointers in a game. Like, it was insane what they were doing, shooting from beyond. Kyrie Irving couldn't miss. Like, he was just locked in. I don't see that happening, but it's tough for me because, like, taking the points – like I said, I think from a betting side, I think the Suns end up winning. That's the way I lean, but I do kind of worry about this game. I also agree with Travis that off the back-to-back, I could see an under here. Like, it's possible. I could see the under happening.
I don't think I'll bet a Nets under for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I get it. You understand, though, that those hot streak, like the way they were shooting last night, like, that's not normal. Like, that is definitely not normal.
The defense is so bad, especially with Durant out.
The Suns are the opposite. They are going to try and slow this game down. See, what I don't understand, Sacramento to another team, you don't play to the better team's strength. Like, let's say you're 2 fast-paced teams. If one team is way better at it than you need to play differently against that team. Like, you can't beat them at their own game. So for a team to go in there and try and keep pace with Brooklyn is insane to me. Like, it's crazy. I thought Sacramento, not slowing the game down a little bit, getting the ball inside on the block to Whiteside more. Yeah, they ran a lot of pick and roll with him, but that's not letting him work on the block, pick and roll, slowing the game down. I think that was to their detriment a little bit, and they just went away from it. And they also went away from Buddy Hield, who was on fire in the first quarter or first half, and then they kind of went away from him in the second half. But it just, to me, is insane. I think the Suns are going to play the opposite. They're going to literally try and slow this game down as much as possible and just force Brooklyn to play at their pace, which Brooklyn does not want to do. They don't want to play at the Suns' pace, and I think that's where the Suns have the advantage. From a DFS standpoint, I think Ayton's going to honestly be popular. I think he's going to be someone that people look at. Centers have done well against Brooklyn. We just watched Whiteside go for like 58 in 20-something minutes on the floor. Like, Ayton could do that as well, but I don't know if he's going to be popular. I can find pivots. Al Horford's a nice pivot right in that same range. Enes Kanter, like, there are other center pivots in that range. So it'll be interesting to see how ownership shakes out. I do like the Jay Crowder call, though, Mangone. I think he's someone who, in this matchup, actually makes a lot of sense as a cheaper play.
Yeah. As someone who watches the Kings a lot, JSU, I'd say expecting Luke Walton to make strategic adjustments is kind of like expecting snow in Sacramento. Like, I don't think we're going to see either in the next 5 or 10 years.
I will say JSU brought a really good point spread. So, like, remember we watched the Warriors play basketball and they started the whole, like, let's run up and down the court?
Yeah.
Like, and everyone's like, oh, let's try it. It was like, well, that's not going to work because this team knows how to do it. And it's elite. Like, that was like the perfect example of why you don't do that, right? I do think Nutflush in the chat, he's bringing up some great points. Like, I think the Suns team total is not a bad one to bet because I think, again, if this game gets out of hand or if it does stay close, I think that the Suns team totals is a really good bet there. I like that call. But JSU brings up some great points with everything. And talk about some more mid-tier plays. Again, like, there's so many good plays. Like Chris Paul and Booker, like, we didn't talk about them a ton. But, I mean, I think they're great DFS plays too. I wouldn't even hate, like, spread. I don't know if you've seen, like, Booker's usage is at, like, 31%. I'd be curious what his props are because what happens is a lot of these props are aggregate numbers, right? They're like, oh, what have they been doing? And, like, they might be down more than they should be, and they should maybe have a boost up. Do you have any, like, Devin Booker props in front of you, spread?
I can pull them up right now because I got Bookmaker up.
Well, what do you think of those guys, JSU? Or do you think it could be a game where, like, there's a lot of stars there, right? There's Ayton, there's Booker, there's Paul. There's a lot of usage to go around. They play good team basketball, but it is the Nets.
Paul's at 17.5, and Booker is at 26.5.
Oh, wow, 26. That's a high number.
He's steam, though.
Yeah,
he's steam, too.
Yeah, I don't think I'd touch that then, but I was just curious what it's done. That's all. So that's interesting.
Yeah, those player like Devin Booker, it might be a little tough. Chris Paul, I don't mind that as much, I guess, if I had to look at it. But I think this matchup in general makes a lot of sense for a guy like Chris Paul, who's going to be able to kind of create on his own, get into the paint. He's going to be able to do really whatever he wants. If you watch that game last night against Sacramento, one thing that stuck out was off like the high pick and roll, which they were running a ton with Whiteside. Pretty much what they were doing was they were giving that like floater to Halliburton or Fox if they wanted it. Fox wasn't really shooting it. Really, Halliburton was, but they're giving that little floater shot, which CP3, we know he can hit. And we know also the thing that De'Aaron Fox was doing was more like stopping in the paint and taking that little bunny jump shot, which Chris Paul is like perfected in the middle, when he gets into the paint like that. So that's a shot where I think CP3 is going to have all day. But if they decide to stop it at certain points, that drop off to Ayton, like it was to Whiteside a little bit in that game, will be there constantly. So I think it's going to be one of two things. It's going to be Chris Paul going crazy with a bunch of assists, or he's just going to eat them up in the paint with a bunch of mid-range jump shots because they're not going to be able to stop it.
Yeah, I like the Chris Paul look a lot more than Booker. I think you're also going to get a little bit of that residual emotion from their time together in Houston. I know that they definitely left on bad terms. And
true. Yeah, the revenge narrative.
Paul is one of the guys that's definitely.
Mangone, how'd you not see that? I can't believe you brought up the revenge before Mangone spread.
Man,
That's impressive.
I love a good narrative, right? Like we do shows, right? So it's like, sure, it's fun to talk about, but let's talk about some fun stuff, right? I mean, who doesn't like a good revenge narrative? And like, listen, so everyone. So let's say JSU played basketball against like me tomorrow, right?
Mm-hmm.
JSU's not going to care. He's going to play. He knows he's going to win. If he's playing against Big T, he's going to get up a little bit, right? You're going to get up against Big T. No, come on. You're not losing to him.
If I played Big T, it would be knockdown, drag out. Like, yeah, we would be throwing elbows at each other. Definitely would not be a friendly match. That's how it's supposed to be, though, Mangone.
And that's what it should be for James Harden and Chris Paul, right? Like against me, you're going to dribble. You're going to take some fun shots.
Do you think Harden
cares? I feel like though at that type of level, it's just like they get it every day. It's like I don't know. I feel like the narratives at certain points, I get some of it. Like Wall yesterday, they're missing a bunch of guys. Like Wall was the only guy they had. Forget take revenge out. He still was going to shoot that many times, like regardless of who they were playing. But I get it. Like even when that's not the case, like if their whole team was fully healthy, I still understand it because he wants to put it to his whole team. And you saw Bradley Beal and him on the free throw line, like towards the end of that game, they were joking a little bit, and Bradley Beal was laughing and stuff like that as he was complaining to the ref. Like it's just, I'm sure there's a little something behind it, but I think CP3, if you want to talk about revenge, CP3 is definitely someone. When he gets mad, he turns
He's
it
holding on
up.
to that for years.
Yeah,
right? I can imagine him like snubbing him at like an all-star ceremony like 10 years from now, refusing to shake his hand or something like that. So I don't know how much Harden really cares about this stuff, but I definitely think Chris Paul does. So, all right, guys, this has been fantastic. But before we get out of here, we got to give everybody a best bet. Travis, let's start with you.
Yeah, before we give the best bets, like hit that like if you guys could. Hit the like on the video. It helps us out a ton here over at Run Pure Bets, and subscribe too. We have tons of awesome stuff, and we have great stuff over at Run Pure Sports as well. I'll be doing the show with Big T and JT today. They'll be giving their plays, and it'll be a fun time. My best bet, so I'll give you the Aaron Baines one, right? That's my player prop one I'll give you.
Okay.
I'll take that, and then go back to me at the end. I'll give you another one, spreader money line. I'll find
Sounds good. JSU, what do you want to give out for everybody?
Al Horford over 4.5 assists. Give me that.
All right, I'm loading up on that game. All right, we'll be there too. I'm going to go ahead and take the Memphis money line. We spent, a good 20 minutes on this stream running down the Pelicans and talking about how we wanted to fade them. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we'll be going ahead and fading the Pelicans with the Memphis Grizzlies, the much better coach team. Do you got one more for us, Travis?
Yeah. So, and mine was the Aaron Baines. It was 5.5 rebounds over, and it was you're getting plus money on it. Or it could even be like minus like 105. It could be there. Who knows? But that's where I'm at on that. And then I will give you, because I like the Memphis side, but I'm not going to give you Memphis. Listen, let me go with Denver, man. I think like that I kind of got talked into, and I don't even mind the Toronto one, but let's go with Denver. I'll take them money line. I think JSU kind of sold me on that. And again, Celtics are kind of lost. Like one thing I noticed that Brad Stevens said that I thought was very telling. My one buddy was making fun of me saying the Celtics are a mess, and I'm like, dude, like they literally have not played all year with their full team. They just have not. Like even Brad Stevens said, he's like, we won't know our rotation until Kemba's healthy. And then once Kemba was healthy, then Smart was out. And then, Brown sat. Like they've been a disaster all year. And sure, the Nuggets have been a disaster a little bit this year. But like JC said, they have their core guys. And I was scratching my head when I saw that. When you're scratching your head, that's your gut telling you from watching all these games, you should jump on it. So I'm going to jump on Denver money line.
That's right. That's right, Travis. That's how you do it. You get Denver money line. I love that bet. Let's go Denver money line, and then Toronto. Those are the two sides I'm leaning as well. We'll ride with it.
Yep, I like the Memphis. And JSU, one thing I'll say about your bet with Horford. So I was looking at some like projections on Horford, and it says to take the under, and that's like when I looked at it, and I was like, no, I'm not doing that. This is where the math is wrong. No. I'm not saying I want to take the over, but I know I don't want to take the under. So I like the call on the over.
Well, great job, guys. I think this was really a tough slate, and I think we made some good work of it and found some angles here and what I think was a pretty sharply lined slate for everybody. So thank you guys for joining us. Like Travis said, please like the video. Please subscribe to Run Pure Bets. Go ahead and check Travis out tonight over on the Run Pure Sports YouTube channel. Go ahead over to runpurebets.com. Check out all that we have to offer. Thank you for joining us today. We'll be back tomorrow with JSU, and I think Big T, I got to confirm with them, and then we'll have it all for the rest of the week. Looking forward to hanging out and doing this again tomorrow, guys. Thank you for joining us, and Run Pure.